on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Prime Sports World here with College Football Showdown. And I'm your host, Israel Rivera, back with one of our best shows and one of the best games and the best game in the end of the road for the college football season with the 2026 National Championship between number 10 Miami and number 1 Indiana kicking off within an hour. There goes from the dailybiz.blog, Christian Simpson and Matt James as well. Christian, when do you drop that article, man?
I actually just dropped it. I wanted to
just dropped it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So now you can actually give some. So now you can actually talk about the game instead of
yeah, most definitely. But man, just really looking forward to this, guys. This is my 15th national championship that I'm breaking down. So I'm taking this all in. This might be minuscule to a lot of people, but to me, like, this is everything. And I'm ready to talk about it. It's been a great couple of days, football wise. And we get this until next Sunday and then the Super Bowl, and then we gotta wait. But I know next year we coming back with a vengeance, baby.
Oh yeah, no, this is gonna be one of them, one of those games where it'll catch some people off guard of what to expect. As opposed to seeing Indiana pretty much dominate, we've seen Miami kind of squeak out some games against some very formidable opponents so far.
Yeah, we have
in the college football playoff. So, but yeah. Let's move on to the show because I know we got David and those guys. We got David, and I'll probably be on that show within the next 40 minutes or so. So we got a lot to cover. But how did they get here? We got the number 10 Hurricanes. Obviously, there was a big controversy between them and Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the first team out. Miami gets in. And ironically, Miami's in one of the last two teams to be in the playoff here. And they started out first round in College Station on the road, beating Texas A&M 10-3 with a hell of a goal line stand against Marcel Reed and company. That defense really showed out. I think we'll have a common theme amongst Miami in this college football playoff. It's the offensive line play, the running game, and how that defense has stepped it up just another notch in the college football playoff. And then they go ahead and they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes, the reigning national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, 24-14. And then they go ahead and defeat Ole Miss 31-27 in a thriller. And we all could say, if Trinidad Chambliss had about 20 more seconds, Ole Miss is probably in this spot against Indiana. But thoughts on Miami and how they have gotten here? I'll start with you, Christian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it with confidence. They've done it with consistency. And I remember at one time at the beginning of the year, I was saying that they were the best team in the country. Just the way they were carving through their opponents. And I know they had a little bump in the road, but here's the thing. What happens to you doesn't define you. It's how you respond to it, and it's how you move forward. And look, this is Mario Cristobal's best coaching job to date because everyone's came for his head. They really have. They wanted him fired. They think he really didn't have it, but this team plays hard for him. They leave everything on the field. I look at the win against Texas A&M. You talk about mucking the game up and ugly in the game up. They turned that game into a street fight, and Texas A&M wasn't able to recover. The Ohio State game was the game that really made me pay attention to them because they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes at their own game. Physical, establishing the tempo of the game in your favor, hitting them in the mouth, and just going from there. All they needed from Carson Beck was to manage the game. And then the Ole Miss game, I knew this would be a challenge for them, just due to the simple fact when Ole Miss starts with the lead, they usually play with the lead and they maintain the lead. Miami, they had to throw punches and they kind of had to turn it into a semi-shootout. The only thing that concerned me about this game, and I'll say this when we do our keys to the game as well, the only thing that concerned me about this game against Ole Miss was they only sacked Trinidad Chambliss once. they got to Marcel Reed 7 times and they got to Julian Saint 5 times. So the point I'm getting at is when they rush the passer, that really sets the tone for the entire football team.
Matt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with what Christian said. They get off to fast starts. They punch people and other teams in the mouth right away, which is key to top tier opponents. I mean, they've done this from game one. I mean, that's how they took care of Notre Dame in game one. They went in there and punched them in the mouth right away, and kept going at it, kept that lead throughout the game. I mean, we're talking other teams they taken care of throughout the season, but going to the college football playoff, they went into Allen Field, one of the toughest places to play, and did that to Texas A&M. Held them to 3 points. Ohio State, which is known to take care of business and win championships, they punched them in the mouth early and won that by double digits. And Ole Miss, I mean, yeah, this is what they do, and this is what they need to do tonight. Again, against a very, very, very good Indiana team who does not let the foot off the pedal.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think Miami has shown that they're battle tested. They haven't lost a game, this season by more than a touchdown. They lost to Louisville, they lost to Duke, and it wasn't more than double digits. Those were games that, quite frankly, I just think they got bored in, and they kind of looked past their opponent. They turned it up a notch in the second half of the season. Like Christian said, we'll get to the keys of the game here, but it was an impressive display of football that Miami has played, especially when they got to that second round. I thought first round when they beat Texas A&M, I thought that was kind of a 50-50. I think both teams were kind of very similar teams, in my opinion. But who was going to edge it out? I thought Texas A&M definitely had the they definitely had the edge because of the home field advantage. But Miami, they have those 2 elite pass rushers that can close out a game. They have that defense that's just flying around. What was really impressive was when they went against Ohio State, the Big Bad Wolf, the reigning national champion. They have probably the best wide receiver tandem, best wide receiver trio in the game, right? With Jeremiah Smith and with Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, right? With Bo Jackson running the football. So Ohio State was a very formidable opponent. And Miami, quite frankly, just came out and dominated, smacked them in the face, and never looked back. And then when they went against Ole Miss, hey, they put up 31 against the SEC team in Ole Miss. They played the track. So in this college football playoff, they showed that they can slug it out, Christian and Matt, and they can also play in a track meet as well. Because nobody can play in a shootout better than Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss is an offense that's built for a shootout, and Miami beat them at their own game. So it's very interesting how a football team can make change and adapt to another. That's when you got a really good team, and that's when you got a really good coaching staff, right? When they can make adjustments by their opponent, per their opponent. And when we talk about coaching edge or anything like that, I know Kurt Signetti gets the coaching edge because of the job that he's done at Indiana. No 5 stars, transfer portal, hitting a lot of D2, a lot of FCS guys, James Madison, low D1 guys, stuff like that. And he's gotten to squeeze the talent out of all those guys. But we also got to give Mario Cristobal, like Christian said, a lot of credit here because he's been able to back-to-back seasons put Miami in a position, bring back the U, so to speak. And so, I think Miami is in a really good place right now, moving forward, and right now, obviously, in the national championship. But when we come to coaching, I think Mario Cristobal is one of the best when it comes to, and he's both of these guys are Nick Saban disciples, right? They fall from that Nick Saban tree, and they both coach just like him, and take a lot of, lessons away from Nick Saban. And so making those coaching adjustments in this game, I think is going to be key. And I think Mario Cristobal has done that as he's gone along in the college football playoff. How Indiana got here, domination. Domination. What's your favorite letters, Christian?
BTA.
BTA, boy. They went against Alabama, and it was BTA against Alabama. 38-3 in the Rose Bowl. And then they went in the rematch against Oregon, and they smacked them up 56-22. Wasn't even close in the Peach Bowl. So Indiana has really showed their dominance, really has, has risen to the occasion as the number one team in this college football playoff, and has drawn comparisons to that 2019 LSU team who had a similar run of domination here. I'll start with you, Christian. Talk to me about how this Indiana team has gotten to this point.
I mean, they've done it their own way. I mean, they stick to their identity. They don't try to jump out their box. And I think the game against Oregon in the regular season was when they reintroduced themselves to the world. They had no chance winning that game. You're going into Autzen. You're playing Oregon. They have a really strong home field advantage. And Indiana went in there and beat them by 10 points. Fernando Mendoza was the perfect conductor for this offense. They run the football with Roman Hemby, and they have a plethora of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. D'Angelo Ponce in the secondary. Michael Kamara on one end. Stephen Daly. I don't know if he's playing tonight because I know he's been dealing with an injury, but everyone does their job. This is a very disciplined football team, and that's a reflection upon the head coach, Curt Cignetti. And then I look at what they did to Alabama. I mean, they beat them like a drum, and they kept doing it, and they kept doing it and doing it until Alabama just waved that white flag, and they got started early against Oregon and just simply never looked back. Whatever you throw at Indiana, they have an answer for. You want to stop the run on them? Okay, cool. We're going to get the ball to Omar Cooper. We're going to get the ball to Elijah Surratt and Charlie Becker over the middle. Cool. You want to load up the pass? We're going to run the football. We're going to establish the run with Roman Hemby. So, they have an answer for everything that you throw. And every test that's come their way, they've passed it and they've aced it with flying colors, especially that Ohio State game. They weren't given much of a chance in that. And to me, personally, Izzy and Matt, they exposed Ohio State. And I can tell Miami studied that tape when they played Ohio State, and they sprinkled in a little bit of their own flair.
Matt.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to be said. I mean, they go full pedal to the metal all the way, all 60 minutes, too. They don't hold off. All right, yeah, we're going to, back off a little bit, play a little bit more, soft zone coverage. No, they're playing their own game the whole entire time. And the one game, right before Oregon was that Illinois game that caught my eye with them. With this 63-10, they caught a hot Illinois team that, some people thought, could have been, a dark horse for the college football playoff at the time, but they smacked them in the mouth and ended their season right then and there. So, yeah, this Indiana team, both sides of the ball, might be one of the best teams we've seen since at least the 2019 LSU, maybe. I don't even know. It's been a while. Both sides of the ball are phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think Indiana, they win with a lot of speed. And obviously you got the Heisman Trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza. And I think, when it comes down to it, coaching matters, right? And Curt Cignetti is I talked about Mario Cristobal from the coach Nick Saban tree. So does Curt Cignetti. And the guy, like he said, Google him. He's a winner, right? He's won at every single level he's been on. And the guy has brought a toughness to Indiana. I mean, now we see how prevalent their alumni base is. Before, when they weren't winning, you didn't really see much of them. But now winning cures everything in the college football program, right? So, when it comes down to it, Carsignetti is one of the best in the game, probably if not the best in the game, at squeezing all the talent. And just imagine you start getting him 4 or 5-star recruits in that program. It's going to be something else to look out for. And I think, like I said, they got speed on defense. They are precise on offense, which, they run the football with Roman Hemby and Kalen Black, which sets up the RPO game with Fernando Mendoza. Why do I got to look at 2-3 progressions when my first guy is always open, right? Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr., right? And, and then you sprinkle in Charlie Becker, right, Christian? So we're going to talk about these guys, and it's probably a perfect segue, but Indiana has been dominant. Becker, for example, I mean, he started out slow, but in the last half of the season, man, he's averaged like 20 yards of reception. And he's a big play threat for them.
Yeah, so, especially out the side. He, to me, how can I? He's like an Edelman that could do a little bit more, because Charlie Becker can go over the top, and he did this a lot in the Big Ten title game against Ohio State. It just seemed like he's really become that safety valve for Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're here, number 10 Miami versus number 1 Indiana, and I know Christian's dropped his preview. I haven't had the chance to read it, but Christian to kind of pretty much go through it right here live with you as he goes over. So Christian, we'll start with this, and I don't have keys to the game, but I have some what ifs and ifs, right? And I have X factors, and we all have a prediction at the end. Miami wins if
Miami wins this game if they, one, get Mark Fletcher going, because Mark Fletcher will force Indiana to load that box, sit guys in a box, and respect the run. And what does respecting the run do? It allows a team to use play action and get your receivers and your passing game going down the field. They want to create in chunk plays. I don't think we've had matchups like this in the national championship where it's been contrasting styles of football. That's what Washington versus Michigan was a couple years ago. I remember telling Matt this, like with Miami, they want chunk plays. They want to run it up. They want to light the scoreboard up. They want those home run plays down the field, but they can also play with balance if necessary. Indiana, on the other hand, they want to sustain long and methodical drives. They want to control the clock, keep Carson Beck and company on the sideline. Don't let them see the field. Run the ball, use those screen passes, take what the defense gives you. So Miami wins this game if they establish Mark Fletcher, if they create a turnover, because Indiana has been damn near perfect in taking care of the football in this postseason. And most importantly, the pass rush has to get going from the get-go. They have to get home. They have to collapse Fernando Mendoza's pocket. They have to throw him off his spot, make him hesitate, force him to throw the ball sooner rather than later.
Matt James.
Yeah, I mean, everything Christian said was spot on. I'm going to add to it. I mean, Carson Beck has been here before and has won it. Allow him to, get his offense, settled in and going. He knows how to play in this type of game, type of environment. He's been here, time or two before. The good Carson Beck has to come out, play, clean game. I mean, that's key for Miami, I believe. I mean, off of, into a fast start and, as Christian said, establish the run and confuse Mendoza, get after him early on. I mean, the first quarter is key for Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. I think guys, I lost my computer. I'm having issues with my computer. It died out, so we lost the graphics, but it's all good. I already know what the premise of the show is. Miami, I'm gonna tell you what. Look, Miami wins. Like I'm leaning toward what Christian said, right? If you run, they're gonna have to run the football. I've already been big on, and I'm pulling up whatever I had up on my. Here we go. I'm pulling up whatever I had on my computer on my phone. But look, Miami wins if they run the football. You got to give that boy that 6'2", 220 pound cowbell the ball 25 times tonight. And you have to lean lean on that smaller defensive line that you're going to go against. The average size of Miami's offensive line is 6'6", 350 pounds. Okay, they
Big boy
are
football.
big boys. That is
Big
big, and
big boy football.
they are big, they're athletic, they're
Yep.
strong, and
Mm-hmm.
they're skilled, and they ain't
Mm-hmm.
soft. And the biggest one is Markel Bell, right at 6'9", 350 pounds. And then you have the other right tackle in Mwaga, who's 6'6", 350 pounds. Francis Mwaga, I forget, I hope I'm not butchering his name. He's 6'6", 350 pounds as well. Inez Cooper, 6'6", 350 pounds. Matthew McCoy, 6'6", 350 pounds. The only one that's shorter is James Brockmeyer. He's 6'4". Okay, on that line. The biggest guy on my defense on Indiana's line is I think is their nose tackle, who's only like about 6'2" or 6'3". So yes, Miami does beat you with a lot of speed. I mean, Indiana does beat you with a lot of speed, but Miami's line is going to beat on you and beat on you and beat on you over the course of the game. And we saw they can slow it down against Texas A&M. They can do a grind out game, and they can hit you right. And we saw right Mark Fletcher with that big run at the end of the game, towards the end of the game that won them the game.
Yeah.
That was the work of the offensive line leaning on Texas A&M all game long for 4 quarters. It's tough when you got those big boys just coming at you constantly. And you know what Mario Cristobal's background is? He's an offensive line coach.
Yep.
So he's an offensive lineman, right? So he's big on the hog mollies, and we know what Kurt Signetti's about. He's about speed. He's a wide receiver coach. So Miami is going to come at you with strength and power. They're going to run between the tackles. They may not have a dual-headed monster in terms of Indiana, but they also have good running backs, right? But they have the best running back, I think, in the game, and that's Mark Fletcher. And then also, I mean, pick your plays, right? We all know. Look, I'm not putting everything on Malachi Tony. He should be enjoying high school right now. But the kid's so damn advanced and so good. He's playing in a national championship, and he's
Mm-hmm.
one of the best wide receivers in college football. C.J. Daniels. They have guys that can go out there and make plays in the passing game as well. And we saw Malachi Tony in the last game, right? He took a short little slant route, a short bubble screen, and took it straight to the house, Christian, against Ole Miss for the go ahead for the
Yeah.
game winning touchdown, right?
He did. That he
And
did.
so and he's an electrifying athlete. And so for Indiana, they're gonna have to be able to be on their P's and Q's. Everything getting sucked in because Mark Fletcher and that big offensive line is running the football, and then Malachi Tony, C.J. Daniels, and Carson Beck. Like Christian says all the time, what's Carson Beck? Which Carson Beck are we
Yeah,
gonna get?
seriously. Yeah, what version of Carson Beck are we gonna get? They get good Carson, Izzy, and Matt, good things are gonna happen. But
National championship
yeah,
Carson Beck.
Matt,
Yeah.
He's
but if
been
they
there. He's been here already.
yeah,
You
and if
Oh
know.
they
yeah.
and if they get bad Carson Beck, they're going to struggle. Plain and simple.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a long night for them.
yeah. So yeah, I think if Miami gets that Carson Beck that's poised, and he's shown nothing but really good poise in the CFP. I think they are in good shape. And then here we go, Christian. Uh, they have the two guys. They have the two Mariano Rivera's on their team, in Akeem
Hmm.
Messidor and Ruben Bain.
And what
Uh,
makes them so special?
so defense.
Look and listen? What
So
makes them so special? Number one, the former defensive end of me absolutely loves what these guys are able to do because they do it in a plethora of different ways. And you don't see this a lot. You don't even see this in the NFL. Normally, you see when you have two guys that can rush the passer. You have one on one side, and then you have another on the other side. Sometimes Miami lines them up on the
on
same
same
side
side.
But listen. I need to give credit for the development of Akeem Messador and Ruben Bain Jr. to one guy. That's Jason Taylor. This is a Pro Football Hall of Famer that we're talking about, Matt James. This is a guy who is seventh all time on the sacks list in the history of the National Football League. And he knows a thing or two about winning in the trenches and being able to affect the passer. He's a former defensive player of the year in the NFL, and he's really taken a step, as a defensive end coach. And it'd be cool to see him get a head coaching job, but you can tell that Jason has really put his fingerprints on Akeem and Ruben.
Yep. Yeah. Running the football and using that big offensive line against a smaller defensive line, I think is what Miami is going to look to do against Indiana. Indiana, Christian, wins if
they remain true to themselves, Izzy. Plain and simple. Play the football that's gotten you here. Don't jump out your box. Win with long, methodical, sustained drives. Run the football. Fernando Mendoza just needs to pick his spots because Miami's going to throw a lot of different looks at him. So I want to see how he counterattacks with that. And what did I say? Anything you throw at Indiana, they counterattack. And, they have an answer for everything you throw at them. You have to chip Ruben Bain and Akeem Messador. You cannot let them wreck the game because if they get it going, they're gonna keep it going, and most importantly, they're gonna tee off and they're not gonna stop. They're gonna get downhill. They're gonna rush the passer. They're gonna try and just dominate and control the line of scrimmage all game long. But I think the biggest key of the game for the Indiana Hoosiers is it's all about dominating on third down and winning your red zone situations. Come away with 6, not 3. This is what championship football comes down to. Who can execute in situations better and more consistently? And they need to force field goals when Miami is in the red zone. And not only that, they need to maximize on their scoring opportunities.
Matt.
Yeah. Force Carson Beck, to be back Carson Beck. Force him, into turnovers. Do what you do best. I mean, be what you've been the last 2 seasons. I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty, on paper, on the field all season. I mean, they're 15-0 for a reason. So, yeah.
So yeah, going back to what Christian said, I think that's exactly what you need to do if you're Indiana. You win if you stay true to yourself. You got to continue to run the football with Roman Hemby and Kalen Black. We talk about how big Miami's offensive line is. Indiana's got a pretty big offensive line too. Now they may not be as talented as Miami's offensive line, but they're sure as hell well coached and they're sure as hell just as big. And so they have 2 wide receivers in Elijah Sherrod and Omar Cooper Jr. along with Becker as well. That can make plays. And we all know the straw that stirs the drink is Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner. If you're running the football, it makes his job a lot easier. If you can't run the football, then it makes his job a lot harder because now he gets in those third and long, second and long, third and long situations that he really, quite frankly, doesn't really want to be in. And he's got to utilize his feet. If he has to get outside the pocket, he can, but he doesn't want to. He wants to make quick, accurate, precise throws, and he wants to pick his spots in trying to get yards on the ground. But he doesn't want to do that all night against Miami. One thing that he does have in his favor is one of the best DBs, Xavier Lucas, is out for a half. Right, so you got to expose that, right? Out for targeting from the last game.
Yeah.
Also, one of the Miami's linebackers, are a little banged up. So, but I'm sure all the guys are pretty much ready to go. It's the national championship. And so Indiana has to stay true to themselves, like Christian said, run the football and make sure you guys are protecting Fernando Mendoza because last time I don't think they faced a team with this type of pass rush. I don't even think Ohio State has a better pass rush, in my opinion, than what Penn State showed. Because I look at that Penn State game and I go, man, Indiana really struggled against the pass rush against those guys. Indiana really struggled at trying to run the football against that. Miami is a very similar team to what Penn State is. And so I can see maybe some early struggles. It's all about what Kirk Cignetti is going to do to make those coaching changes and those adjustments. This is why he gets paid the big bucks. And this is why he's going to be a main staple and he's one of the best coaches in college football. So I think that Indiana wins, like I said, got to assert the running game like you had been 5-6 yards a pop, short passing game, quick throws with Fernando Mendoza, and then beat them over the top once in a while with Elijah Surratt, Becker, and Omar Cooper Jr. And I think you'll be just fine. And then defensively for Indiana, you know, try to beat them with speed off the edge. I know they're going to blitz them somewhat. Try and test those linemen. They're big, but try to test that athleticism, right? Test the running backs. See if they can pick you up in blitz pick up, right? Because Carson Beck, he's prone to give you a couple and make some mistakes, right? This goes along with us saying which Carson Beck you're going to get. If Indiana is able to get pressure on Carson Beck, he can give them a couple turnovers. That's the last thing Miami wants to do is turn the ball over quick in this game and give Indiana good field position to get up early in this game. So anyways, Miami's X factors in this game. Christian, I'll start with you.
Look, I'm looking at Keelan Marion. I know Mark Fletcher, CJ Daniels, Malachi Tony, and Carson Beck. I know they're the engines of this offense, but I think Keelan is just as important. When the first two reads are covered, this is the guy that Carson's been targeting. He made a couple of big catches in the Fiesta Bowl against Ole Miss, and not only were they catches, completed passes at that. He moved the chains. So he's their chain mover. He's their guy that lines up in the slot, but you can use him wide as well. And I just know Daniels and I know Tony are going to command a majority of the attention. What do I always say? You're not going to be able to double and triple team everybody. Someone's going to be left open on that island, and that's where Keelan comes in. He doesn't need 8 catches, Izzy and Matt, to impact this game. He needs maybe about 4 or 5, and he can flip momentum in the favor of the Miami Hurricanes tonight.
Matt.
I'm going to take Fletcher early. Establish the run game. Take over chew up the game clock. Keep Indiana's offense off the field. This is basically a home game for Miami. They're in Florida.
They're in Florida, but
Yeah, it's much closer than Indiana.
Indiana
it's
shows
just like Northern going to play Florida State in 2013 down there.
I don't know, man. They said what they say. They said Miami's alumni bought about 60% of the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna have a lot of red in that stadium.
All right. Well, I hope so. But just keep it even. Them stay in the same state. But nonetheless,
I feel that the comfortability factor. I feel that comfortability factor.
So
of being home,
establish the run, control the game clock. Keep Indiana's offense off the field. Keep Mendoza off the field. I feel like it's the key of the game. Like you did that to A&M, you did that to Ohio State, and continue to do that.
Well, I'm gonna go with a couple X factors. I know Christian went with one. I'm gonna go with two. I'm gonna go with two on both sides of the ball. I'm gonna go for the offensive X factor. I'm gonna go with Miami's whole offensive line. That's gonna be an X factor in itself. Offensive line play, and in particularly, I'm looking at Markel Bell. I'm looking at Francis Moigoa. Those guys are projected like first, second round picks. How do those guys set the edge when it comes to being able to set it for Mark Fletcher, set it for Malachi Tony on those jet runs, jet sweeps. Also, being able to protect Carson Beck as well in the pocket, and then obviously defensively, it's going to be the two closers in Ruben Bain and Akeem Messador. Those guys are going to be complete X factors. They are going to challenge Miami's offensive tackles from the first snap of the game. And how does Mendoza be able to react
to the pressure because Miami, what they want to do, they're going to rush 4 and they're going to drop 8, right? So drop 7. So Miami's not going to blitz a lot because they got guys that can get home. And so that's what they want. And so those two guys are going to be X factors as well for me in Miami. For Miami, Indiana's X factors, Christian.
Looking at Indiana's X Factor, I'm looking at Michael Kamara. He came over with Kurt Signetti from James Madison. And I always say football it's all about systemic fits. And he knows what Kurt wants to do. And he's become a defensive standout for this Hoosiers defense that's been one of the best in the country. He can wreck drives if he's left unaccounted for. He has great speed and power off the edge. He can play the interior, but most importantly, he wins his battles without blitz help. So that means, he feels like he can overpower and just win those one-on-one battles in the trenches. The thing I like about him is he forces quarterbacks to speed up their processes and their decision making, and he can create negative plays consistently. He can push the pocket back. He can meet a guy like a Mark Fletcher at the line of scrimmage, and that could be a loss of 2 or 3 yards. And this is an Indiana defense that can play disciplined when he has it going, and they don't have to blitz as much. And when you're playing an offense like Miami that likes to thrive on these chunk plays, I think the disruption and the consistent push up front from Kamara, it comes in handy.
Matt.
Yeah, I agree with Christian. I'm going to go defense, like as a whole. I mean, control Carson Beck and Fletcher, take the ball away and rattle them. I mean, do what you do. Don't give up the easy points or anything. They don't do that, very often. But as I said, just basically be you.
Yeah, I think my X factor is going to be super cliche, but it's got to be the Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, right? He's made play after play all season long. And everybody's gonna assume that he's gonna make the play in tonight, right? He's gonna make the necessary plays to be able to put Indiana up top. I can go with D'Angelo Pons because he's gonna have to be on, probably Malachi Tony or CJ Daniels. He's one of their better cornerbacks. He's 5'9", super fast, stuff like that, right? I can go with Roman Hemby. Obviously without that offensive line, but it all comes down to Fernando Mendoza. If he's not making the necessary checks, if he's not making the necessary throws and the accurate throws in this game against a real big secondary. I mean, we talked about their offensive line. I mean, their secondary, Miami secondary averages 6'1", 6'2". They're all long, they're all athletic, they all can hit. They're gonna be out without one key guy for a half, but those guys can fly. And it's up to EJ Williams, Elijah Sherrod, Omar Cooper Jr., Charlie Becker. It's up to those 4 guys to kind of get open. I know this offense is really systematic, and Fernando Mendoza is the mastermind behind the system. Well, obviously Kurt Signetti is, but Fernando Mendoza pushes the buttons. When he's on the field. And so I think he's going to have to be the X factor. Obviously, if they lose, right? If they lose, everybody's gonna say this is, especially if he has a bad game, it was on him, right? It was on the Heisman Trophy winner. This game can, I know he's probably solidified his #1 overall status as a NFL quarterback in the next draft. But he has a bad game against a Miami defense. Everybody's gonna look to him and say, man. In the biggest game of the season, he crumbled. And what is he gonna do, right? What do I want to see him do in the biggest game of them all? He had a bunch of big games. You named them. He went into in the outs and zoo and won, right? He won in the Penn State and won, right? He beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. He beat Alabama, breaks off Alabama. And you know what I'm saying? He beat Oregon a second time. Now he's going against like the best pass rush that he's ever going to face all season long. And he won the Heisman. And this guy is gonna have to show up and put a Superman cape on and do big things in big spots. And so yeah, my X factor is gonna be Fernando Mendoza. Prediction time. So prediction time.
Let's
Christian, what is
go.
your prediction for this game?
Man, I'm so used to always yelling out shameless plug number one with you guys.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. But you know what? Nah, I previewed it before I jumped on the mic with you guys. Look, Miami's been a great story. They're gonna feed off that home energy because I mean, this is a home game for them. Like Matt James just pointed out. But I just think Indiana is the more well-rounded football team, and the Big Ten's gonna win another national
3 in
championship,
a row?
third straight
Mm.
season. I like Indiana to win this football game 27-20. Here's what I
Nope.
think happens.
They
It's
are 8
either
and a
gonna
half point favorites.
look, it's either gonna be a blowout or it's gonna be very tight and very close all the way throughout. And I see this coming down to the fourth quarter. I like Indiana 27-20.
Matt.
Wow. There are so many Miami alum. It is crazy. I'm gonna take Indiana on this one. I mean, as we stated, throughout the show, both sides of the ball is so strong, and Signetti never takes the foot off the pedal. I'm gonna take Indiana to cover the spread. Give me Indiana 38-27. Oh, all right. Found the sound effects.
Oh, anyways, yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm gonna go. Like I said, man, I really think the Miami's gonna slow this game down. I think they're going to. I love Indiana. Don't get me wrong, but I think offensively, I think Miami's shown that they can either speed it up or they can slow it down. They're playing with such great continuity right now. I think they're gonna be. They're the underdog, and they're an underdog that really shouldn't be. Really, in normal years, really shouldn't be an underdog, but this year they are. And I think that match styles make fights, right? When you saw Bud Crawford fight Canelo, a lot of people said Canelo's too big and Canelo's too, got he's been wrestling, he's been fighting at that weight and he gonna knock Bud out. But the style of Bud Crawford ended up dictating that fight and winning that fight. And I always like styles when it comes to matchups. And I think this is one of those styles that Miami's gonna play. They're gonna slow it down. They're gonna play real methodical. They're gonna lean that big, heavy offensive line on Indiana, and Mark Fletcher's just gonna pound you and pound you and pound you and beat you down and beat you down and beat you down. And defensively, and then it's gonna wear you down for 4 quarters. And by the time the fourth quarter comes, boom, 60-yard run to the house, right? For Mark Fletcher or whatever the case is, right? Or boom, Malachi Tony's busting up the scene because that Indiana defense has been on the field for so long. I think that's how this game is going to play out. I do think that you can't turn the ball over if you're Carson Beck. So that's one thing. He has done a great job in the second half of the season and also in the CFP. Well, like I wouldn't say second half, but like the last 2 or 3 games to the CFP throughout the CFP, he's done a great job at being, especially against Ole Miss. He had the game winning touchdown where he ran in. I mean, he's been methodical. He's been playing with a lot of poise. And I think that Indiana, Indiana offensively is going to have a tough time dealing with Akeem Messador and Ruben Bain Jr. So they're going to have to get that ball out real fast to affect that pass rush. I'm not saying that they can't, but the cornerbacks in the back end are going to have to do their job so those guys up front can get home. Right? They're not going to be Bama. They're not going to. They're not going to blitz. They ain't gonna blitz. Bring them out blitz. Okay? They're going to rush for drop back 7, and they're going to say, let's see what your offensive line can do against our killers on our defense. Give me Miami to win this game. I'm gonna go 21-13 Miami.
Ooh,
21-13
Wow.
Miami. We
ooh.
flipping the roles. I think Miami wins by a
Beat me.
touchdown. I think
Hey.
Miami wins by a touchdown. And I think that last play it's gonna do. I think that last in the fourth quarter they're gonna wear down Indiana, and they give them the knockout punch. They win by 8, and that defense plays elite to close out the show. So give me Miami to win the national championship this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but anyways, guys, that's been a wrap. You guys let us know down in the comment section who you think is going to win this national championship, and we will come back with a rapid response. Or I'll come back. I don't know if you guys want to join me. You guys going to join me on a rapid response to the national championship game, so we can talk about it right after the game. You guys don't want to miss that hot content. And then David, TJ, and probably me will be up next talking about the recap of the NFL divisional round. So you guys don't want to miss that hot content from Prime Sports World. But in case I didn't see it, hey, and before you guys, please like, share, subscribe to our Instagram page, our TikTok page. I'm dropping some real hot reels on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So you guys don't want to miss all of that stuff, all that content. I'm chopping up. I'm working real hard behind the scenes, staying up late, chopping up these videos. So you guys don't want to miss all that hot content coming up. And if you weren't on the show, in case I missed you guys, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, man, he threw that thing off the backboard just for me to say my favorite 4-worded phrase. Holla at your boy.
Holla at your boy, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys soon, man. Peace out, man.